Okay. Welcome to the McKnight Fellowship for Book Artists Information Session. My name is Anika Schneider, and I am the Director of Exhibitions and Artist Programs at Minnesota Center for Book Arts, and I use she, her pronouns. So during the portion where we're speaking, if everyone could be on mute, please, just to reduce background noise, that would be great. And then we are going to have a question period at the end, but if you would like to put a question in the chat in the meantime, we'll get to that during our Q&A. And I will be doing the first portion for MCBA, then Paula McCartney will be speaking, and then Naomi for Springboard's portion. Okay, Minnesota Center for Book Arts is a nonprofit arts organization focused on the book. We provide youth and adult workshops in paper making, letterpress printing, screen printing, bookbinding, paper marbling, and book-related arts. Our programs span from exhibitions, visiting artist talks, fellowships, mentorships, an artist collective, membership program, and an artist consignment program in our shop. And we are so pleased to partner with the McKnight Foundation in our third year, offering 2 fellowships in book arts. Here you can see our main lobby, which has a staircase designed by Karen Worth, a local artist. We have a shop, which is currently open on Saturdays, and we will be moving through a reopening plan with fully extended hours throughout the spring. We have 2 exhibition spaces, a main gallery and an outlook gallery, which is viewable from Washington Avenue. We have a letterpress studio with Vandercook presses, an etching press, and a type library. And we have 2 paper making studios. We also have a book bindery, a library, darkroom, and a screen printing studio, which is going through a revamp and will be expanding. So a little bit about the McKnight Foundation. The McKnight Foundation is founded on the belief that Minnesota thrives when its artists thrive. The McKnight Foundation's arts program is one of the oldest and largest of its kind in the country. Support for individual working Minnesota artists has been a cornerstone of the program since it began in 1981. The McKnight Artist Fellowship Program provides annual unrestricted cash rewards to outstanding mid-career Minnesota artists in 14 creative disciplines. Program partner organizations administer the fellowships and structure them to respond to the unique challenges of different disciplines. Currently, the foundation contributes about $1.7 million per year to its statewide fellowships. Okay, here is the outline for the application cycle. Applications close on March 1st at noon. Please make note that they close at noon. And then the jury panel session for round 1, when the jurors will view the applications through submittable, will be from March 7th to April 11th. On April 15th, applicants will be notified of their status if they will be moving on to the studio visit portion of the application cycle. Those studio visits will be from May 7th and May 8th. And for applicants who move on to this round who are not in the Twin Cities metro area, we will coordinate travel and a place for the jurors to view artwork. On May 9th, finalists will be notified of status, and on June 1st, the recipients will be announced to the public. A little bit of an overview of the fellowship. The fellowship program supports 2 established artists per year by providing significant financial assistance, creating opportunities to meet with local and national arts professionals, organizing a panel featuring the fellows and invited critics, and working with the fellows to create an individualized professional development plan. This program is for mid-career book artists living in Minnesota who are not enrolled in a degree-seeking program, who are over 18, and who provide evidence of professional achievements. So in order to be applicable for the fellowship, you must create artwork that falls within a book arts context, must be over 18, have a Minnesota state residency for 1 year prior to the application, may not be related to staff or board of the McKnight Foundation or MCBA, must have a sit-out period from winning a previous McKnight grant of 5 years, and you can only apply for 1 McKnight Fellowship per year, which includes all of the partners from Film North, High Point, MCAD. You can only choose 1 per year. Okay, so our fellowship provides 2 book artists with the following awards. 2 fellows will receive a $25,000 unrestricted award to allow time for study, reflection, new projects, experimentation. That is up to you. They will receive 2 studio visits with art, critic, curator, arts professionals of a national level, a public panel discussion with an art critic, curator, professional within the book arts field, a $1,000 custom tutorial stipend, a $750 artwork documentation support, studio access to MCBA for 2 years, and the opportunity to attend an artist residency within 2 years of the fellowship. So what is book art? We receive this question a lot, and it is broadly defined through MCBA. So an artist's book is a medium of artistic expression that uses the form or function of book as inspiration. It is the artistic initiative seen in the illustration, choice of materials, creation process, layout, and design that makes it an art object. A book that only contains text is simply a book. Even if authored by an artist, it would be a book that belongs in a bookstore or on the shelves of a library. What truly makes an artist's book is the artist's intent, and artists have used the book as inspiration in a myriad of ways and techniques, from traditional to the experimental. It uses a family of processes that include, but are not limited to, letterpress, screen printing, intaglio, paper decoration, box making, book binding, paper making, and more. They exist at the intersection of printmaking, photography, poetry, experimental narrative, visual arts, graphic design, sculpture, and publishing. Book art may encompass also narrative, sequencing, spatial elements, visual, verbal language instruction, mapping, reference, installation, typography, documentation, and more. Okay, so what does it mean to be a mid-career artist? Also a very frequent question with the McKnight Fellowships. So mid-career artists have at least 8 years of professional experience, preferably in group or solo exhibitions, and this is beyond the period that of being a student, whether undergrad or graduate. Demonstrate a sustained level of accomplishment, commitment, and excellence in their work. Exhibitions undertaken as part of a degree-seeking program at an institution of higher learning will not be considered, such as a senior's thesis or juried student shows. McKnight Artist Fellowships are not lifetime achievement awards and are not about the age of the applicant. Rather, these fellowships are a recognition of the recipient's significant body of work, creative achievement, and their sustained contribution to their artistic field and to Minnesota's arts ecosystem. And people who might be in the early stages of being mid-career or late stages of being in their mid-career are welcome to apply and will be considered. So what is acceptable for proof of residency? So applicants must have lived in the state of Minnesota for 1 year prior to the application deadline. So for this application cycle from March 1st, 2021. Proof of residency documents can include a Minnesota driver's license, Minnesota ID card, utility bill in the applicant's name, lease, or tribal ID. Award winners must reside in the state of Minnesota for the duration of their fellowship. And fellows who travel for work outside of the state during the fellowship year should be in the state for at least 6 months and have a plan to return to Minnesota. Okay, so what the panel looks for. So the jury panel will be looking primarily at your image samples in the first round. They will look for consistent artistic excellence and merit, clarity and uniqueness of vision. They will be reading your artist statement, which will show clarity and uniqueness of vision and commitment to your practice. And I also always recommend to refer to your images within your artist statement. And your professional resume will show them your professional artistic accomplishments to date. Okay, again, Tuesday, March 1st at noon. Okay, so for your application requirements, your contact form, proof of residency, resume, artist statement, image description list. And I had a question for your image description list. It says 400 characters. That's 400 characters per image, not for the list as a whole when you upload that PDF. 10 image samples. And then there's also an option to provide a video sample. That video sample should be supplementary to one of your 10 images. So it should feature one of the pieces in your 10 images. It should not show an additional piece of work. And then an additional PDF as well, which should also be used to show text in a book or other written work that needs to be seen from one of your work samples. It should also not be used to show an additional piece of work. Okay, so your artist statement should speak to the images you are submitting and describe how the fellowship will affect you and your work. In your artist statement, you should address at least one of the following statements or questions. Describe the future direction of your work. What will you do with the funds? How will the fellowship programming benefit your practice? And why is this a pivotal moment in your practice where receiving the fellowship will make a difference? And this is something I can tell you in the past, those questions that our previous jury panels have looked at pretty closely, the answers to those questions. So for your image samples, images must be no larger than 5 megabytes, 300 DPI, and then 1200 pixels or greater in length on the side. There are resources available in this application guidelines, which is on the website for documentation help. You may submit up to 2 videos under 3 minutes in length. Video submissions should supplement the 10 images. And you should not include a still image of your video within the 10 images. And then also you have the addition to adding a PDF as well to show text. You can include such things as if there's a foreword for one of your books, a poem, the text of a book in whole. Okay. So I am going to go through a little bit on submittable, on how you will actually apply. So if you go to our artist opportunities on mnbookarts.org, you will go to the 2022 MCBA McKnight Fellowship application. You will see all these instructions. And then the application guidelines PDF on our website is a little more extensive. You will scroll down. And then you will have to create a submittable account, which is free to do. You will have to put in some basic information. And then you will say if you are applying as an individual or a team, your name, name of applicant 2 if you are a team. This is where you will upload your proof of residency and optional demographic info. The demographic info is helpful for us to improve our programs. You will upload your artist resume and artist statement, your image description list, and then your 10 images. And then you will have to confirm whether you or a member of your team have received a McKnight Fellowship and what year, to make sure you are not in that 5-year wait out period. And then you will submit. And you do need to submit before 12 p.m. We will not be making any extensions or exceptions. After every time one of our applications close, I always get an email or 2 of someone who missed it. Please do not miss it. And you can save as a draft while you are working, but once you hit submit, it is submitted. And if you have any further questions, please reach out to me. I am available by email. Please reach out. There are some questions. If it is with submittable or your application, I might have to refer to submittable for, but please reach out with any questions. Okay. Going to stop share. And then I am going to introduce our 2020 fellow, Paula McCartney, who will be giving some examples and sharing that for you all. So really very thankful that Paula could help out tonight and share. So are you ready to take it over, Paula?
I am. Hi, Anika. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just have to say a quick hi to Wendy. Hi, Wendy. I haven't seen you forever. Okay, so I use Google for teaching. So let me just make sure I have up on my screen what it is I want to share with you. Let's get that down. Okay. I'm going to close this. Okay, so I'm going to try to share my screen. And let's see, when Anika asked me to share some things with you all, we went over some things. And so I'm going to put on the screen, I'm going to share with you my, my proposal statement and just how very simple it is. And I have written lots of grants in the past, applied for lots of grants in the past, and I've also a couple of times been a juror, and I tend to, I guess, do my proposal in the way that I would want to see it if I was a juror, right? Which is like very simple, very clear, very right to the point. And are we good?
You're good. Somebody just,
okay.
Just joined, so I admitted that.
Okay. And the other thing is to really make sure that my statement is matching the images that I'm submitting with, right? So that I make sure I'm like really, really tight talking about exactly what the images and the work that I'm talking about in my proposal. So why don't okay, let's see if I can do this. So share screen. Oh, perfect. Okay, I'm going to do this. Okay, so here's my little window. Hopefully I can open up stuff. Okay. Anika, can you see my statement? Great. Okay, so when I was talking to Anika about—
It's small though.
It is?
I didn't, yeah.
Like
I can
tiny?
see where it says statement doc, like
oh, but you can't see the thing. Weird. Okay. So
I think maybe can open it and then share screen, and then you can just pick that open doc. Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. So I have that. I'm just going to open all the things that I want to share with you. Then it'll be okay. Sorry. And you can, I'm not a very good technology person. So
you're doing great.
you two can do this if you feel like you might not also be that person. I have almost everything. I thought I would maybe be able to open from the window. Okay, I'm gonna try these first. Okay, so now I have to get back to where you are so I can, oh my goodness. This is my like third Zoom thing of the day, but it's the first time I presented. So, okay, now I'm gonna share the screen. Okay, so here is my statement. Is it large this time?
Yep, it's perfect.
Yeah, good. Okay, good. Because that's what I saw the whole time. So as I was, when I was talking to Anika, I opened up my statement from my files since I hadn't looked at it for a while. And I was like, this is really, really basic, very, very simple. And so you can, I'm not going to read it all to you, but you can see that and I also break it up, right? Because when I was juring a few things, like when I would see a giant block of text, I would feel very overwhelmed. So I try to break it up into like consumable, accessible bits. So I just start off by saying my artist books illustrate collaborations with and interpretations of the natural world and have been a focus of my practice for 20 years. I make small edition hand-bound books as well as press printed editions that allow me to share my work with a larger audience. My books extend the possibilities of a spread and are structured to be viewed traditionally, as well as expanded into an installation, ideal for viewing in an exhibition. Because those are the things that at the time and still now that my book work is focusing on. So I just wanted to, give a quick like subject matter of my books, and then to just say, like, share my commitment, right? I've been making books since I was in grad school, and that's been 20 years, to show that I am committed to this medium in my practice, because books are not the only things that I make. I make photographs and ceramics and artist books, and in the last several years, most of the photography and ceramics have ended up in a book. So and then just this idea of the possibilities of a book spread, because I'm really excited about that, as well as exhibiting books, right? If you were exhibiting a painting, you would never show just the bottom left corner. So like if you're showing a book, why would you just show one spread? So how can you share a book in, if not its entirety, in more than just a one-page spread? So those are things that I was focused on. So that's just my beginning introduction paragraph. And then the next paragraphs talk about the images that are in, or the books that are in my image examples. So I shared a field guide to snow and ice. What doesn't kill you will likely try again, shift pivot, and shift pivot. And I showed multiple images, which I'll show you in a second, of 3 different books. And I chose books of the ones that I made that were recent, but I didn't only choose the most recent books. I chose ones that worked well together and dialogue together. So there were definitely 3 different book works, but they weren't maybe necessarily like my 3 favorite books, but they made sense together. And I felt like the jury would see this cohesive narrative and this cohesive style and voice and vision throughout the works that I shared. So I'm just explaining each of the books, giving more information about them, and talking about how, like linking it back to my very first paragraph, how I structured them so that they could function as both a traditional book where the viewer would look at it page by page, but then also how it could function as an installation in an exhibition. So that's what the text in these paragraphs focus on for the 3 books. I think I'm remembering this correctly. Like one of, why did I feel like I needed a McKnight from MCBA at this specific time, right? At any time, it would of course be a really wonderful thing, but what was happening in my practice at that time that made it really important? And I will say that I wrote this proposal before COVID hit, right? So some of the plans are still happening, but they're very much delayed. So here where I've underlined, I said, this very directly, right? They say like, why is this an important part of your career? I would say like, it's an important time in my career because, right? Really use the language that the grant is asking you to, the topics they're asking you to address. So I said at this pivotal moment in my career, collaborating on several books per year, the fellowship would allow me to apply to participate in the print and mail art book fairs, which would then widen my community and collector base and share my books alongside inspiring books from around the world. And then my last paragraph is specifically what else I would be doing. And so the fellowship would allow for the time to experiment with a wide variety of materials and push my structural innovations further. I talked about what I would be doing specifically in the MCBA studios, how I would be able to use this like invaluable rich opportunity and what I would be experimenting with, why I should be working at MCBA and with a McKnight Fellowship attached to MCBA and not one of the other McKnight Fellowships. And then let's see. So I talked about making work. I talked about experimenting. I talked about working in the studios and traveling, and then working on working on like a book dummy for what I would love to be my 3rd monograph. So, and just then lastly, the valuable critical feedback, which has been like more than I would ever have hoped for, and the funds to travel, right? Because we do need money. I don't think it's ever bad to say that I would be able to realize these activities with the generous funds, because you do need the funds to buy the materials, to make the work, to travel and all of that. So you don't ever want to say like that's the only thing that you want, but they do, just realistically, it seems like jurors understand that they do bring access to these experiences that you wouldn't otherwise have. So really simple. Anika, is there anything else I should say about my statement that we talked about that I'm forgetting?
That was great.
Okay. Do you all have any questions? So I'm happy to answer questions too.
Did you underline just for the purposes of the presentation?
I did, exactly. Yeah, that's only, yeah, it's that was for me to remember like what parts of these I wanted to share with you all. I wouldn't underline anything in my what I would give to them, to the juror to turn in, or get to turn in like homework for the jurors. So yeah, any underlining is just things that I wanted to make sure to emphasize. Any other questions? I can only see a few of you with the, okay, this is my image list, and let's see. So it just has the title, the year, the medium is always artist book, the dimensions, and then it's really nice that you have the opportunity, and this is still true, I'm assuming, Anika, that to give a little bit more context to the book. So, you know, if something is an accordion book, I know that, so that, you know, you could look at them traditionally, but also really stretch it out. And let's see.
Paula, are you sharing images right now?
Oh, I am. No, I'm sharing it. No, I'm sharing. Sorry, I'm sharing my image list. Can you not see
It
that?
didn't. For me, it did not load. It just has your statement minimizing, but it's frozen a bit.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna, well, I don't think that the image list is really that like insightful. Let me bring up some images. So I wonder, I'm just gonna stop sharing each time. Sorry, I'm embarrassed this is getting recorded because you're seeing how bad I am at. Okay. Do you see my? Oh, geez, seriously. Okay, I'm gonna open that up again. Sorry. Oh, weird. Okay, don't want to share. I'm gonna close that. I'm gonna open this up again. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to keep going back and forth, or else you're not gonna see what I'm seeing. It's so weird that we would see different things, but I guess I'm not surprised. Okay, do you see thumbnails of my images?
Yes, I
Okay.
see thumbnails.
Okay, so these are the images that I submitted, the 10 images. So you can see images 1 through 4 are the book called A Field Guide to Snow and Ice. And that's a book that has, it's a accordion structure that has images of 3 different widths. So, and it also opens out into an installation, like a 28-foot installation. So I have the book cover, I have you're only seeing small thumbnails, but I have an installation photograph from an exhibition where the book is stretched out. And then I have 2 slides where you're seeing the overlapping pages, which correspond with the overlapping of forms and imagery within the book. So I used 4 of my images just to show that one book, because I did want to give a good idea of just the book cover, it installed, and then 2 spreads. The second book that I shared is a book called What Doesn't Kill You Will Likely Try Again. And it's 4, the work is a set of 4 books. So I used an image for the covers for one image. This is an image, an installation image of the 4 books out on a shelf, because the books are meant to be handled. And this structure, which I referenced in my statement when I'm talking about this book, is that I like the idea that the viewer in an exhibition can go up and handle the books. And then I also like that it's showing a more variety of imagery from the book and just not a single spread, because it's a spread from each of the 4 books. And then it also, the way that the installation is also changes each time the viewer walks up to it, depending on how the previous viewer has left it. So I have an installation photograph for that. And then a page spread from one of the 4 books. Oh, and I actually have 4 books, sorry. So then the second one is an image of the book called Shift Pivot, and that's the collaborative book that I talk about in my statement. And it's also one that I have a video for, because I was allowed to, so again, I should confirm this with you, Anika. Can you still have the 2 videos?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I wanted to use those 2 videos because a book is meant to be handled and experienced in its entirety, right? And it's always so hard and so frustrating to, when you're submitting book works, to have to pick, like, what is the spread that speaks to this whole entire book, right? So I have in my image the cover and the book open to the first spread for this book called Shift Pivot. And then the last book I have images of is this book called Stratigraphic. And again, that spoke to the collaboration. And when I, the collaboration, I applied this as a single person. My collaborator lives somewhere else. We each bring our own parts to our collaborative books. And then one of the spreads from Stratigraphic, the collaborative book, because it's just a single, simple, single signature stitch. And I think I honestly included that because I wanted to show that even though these books are not hand bound, except for the Stratigraphic, I have experience doing that. And that's how almost all of my first half of my book practice was on making hand bound books. So I have an example of that. And you can see what I talked about earlier, how like tight these are aesthetically. They're not all black and white, but they all kind of look black and white, and they're all aesthetically similar, right? I have a book. I would try to share my website, but I feel like that would take too long. I have a book called like Bird Watching that has like really bright colored fake birds and natural landscapes that's super bright and colorful. I also have a book called Book of Trees, which was a collaboration with Andy Sturdivant, who did the writing. And then those are like colorful landscapes where like I'm dressed as this very minimal tree in the landscape. And to have those in with the, even though those are books that are really important to my book practice, it felt just like tighter and more cohesive choosing these books to share. And they also reference this idea of how I'm wanting to expand the spread. Okay, does anyone have any questions before I close the screen? Because I'm gonna try to share the video that I made with you. All right, so I stopped sharing my screen. I'm gonna get up the video and I'll just share one video, I think, because, okay. Let's see. And I have made videos for my books in the past. To make a video, you have to make like 6 videos and then you finally get the one. Like every single time I like bump the tripod, or I can't get a page turned, or just like something happens, right? So give yourself a good amount of time. I have a skylight up in my studio, so I always make the videos on an overcast day when there's nice even lighting. I have like a sheet of foam core on one side to try to balance it out a little bit. I also, which you might actually see in the videos, I also put like little, okay, I have this envelope in front of me. I always put like, let's say this is my book on my desk. I always put little tiny pencil dots on the bottom edges of the book so that I can keep it level, because I'm not very good at doing that. And hopefully the video I'm showing you is a level one. But it's like these kind of like little ways that you can turn the page, exactly where to keep the book, or if it gets a little skewed, you can put it back to those little dots. So just like really simple things. I think these ones that I'm about to show, I made better videos, I think, once I had the studio visit. These ones are like a little blue, but I just think like keep it super simple, right? So let me share, I'm gonna share the screen again. Okay, can you see a book called Shift Pivot? It's a blue book.
Yes, yes.
Great. Okay, so let's see if the video plays. So because this structure, you know, is bound on the front and back cover, it opens outward and outward again, and then upward. I wanted to be able to show, this is a little wonky, I realize. I wanted to be able to show a video of this book because the structure was so important, and it seemed like it would be maybe too confusing if I was just showing the video of, or just, you know, the still image. I didn't really know how I could capture that. So to be able to, I'm going to show the other video too. To be able to show that, I feel like it was so so valuable to be able to do. So, you know, they're not the easiest things to make, and I definitely, as I'm looking at these, I definitely got better after when I made my studio visit ones. But I think it's just really important to do, to be able to share as much as you can with the jurors and give them as much information as you're allowed to submit. So, okay, so this is showing the 4-book set, which I'm then moving to the side so that I could show a book that has some cut pages, which is one of the ways I've been working on expanding the book spread. You know, like showing something like that in just a spread, like one image file, I think would be really difficult. So if your books are sculptural in any way, if your books have, you know, moving parts that go beyond just the viewer turning the page, I think that making a video is definitely advantageous. So. All right, so it just keeps going on until the end of that. Okay, something else. So I mentioned that, okay, I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna open up one more thing. I mentioned that, okay, sorry, I can't do 2 things at once. I mentioned that I make photographs and ceramics and artist books. And there were ceramics in one of the, well, actually 2 of the books that I just showed you. But again, like in really wanting to keep it tight. Okay, I'm trying to get back to you all so I can share my screen again. In wanting to keep it tight. Okay, hold on, hold Shift to select multiple windows. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Shift. Share 2. Okay. Able to keep it tight, I really stuck to those books that had the similar aesthetic, right? So here is a recent installation of photographs. Well, it doesn't feel recent anymore, but at the time it was a recent installation of photographs. And a lot of my books are either like directly inspired by installations of the works that they include, or an installation will or the book will inspire the installation. So in one way, it's like the installations of my photographs are really key to the way that I'm thinking about and designing books. But again, because I'm not applying for a photography or like a fine art McKnight, I'm applying for a book McKnight, I wouldn't show these works, even though like this corner here, like as soon as I walked into that space, I'm like, this is like the fold of a book, right? So here are things that maybe that were recent at the time that I would have been, you know, excited to share in my proposal, but it just didn't make sense since I was trying to stick really, really close to the idea of submitting, you know, the book work that I was wanting to share with the jurors. Okay, and now I've lost the whole screen. Okay, so Anika, what else?
Oh, that was great. I don't think I can think of anything else. Since we talked so much about what I thought would be really useful for people to hear.
Okay. So weirdly, I like closed everything and now all I can see is like a small strip with someone named Todd and that's the only page that I see. Hi, Todd.
Do you want to just stop sharing because it's sort of
Oh, that's
stuck
what
in
I'm
minimize?
doing. Yep.
There you
Exactly.
go.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Good thing I
Perfect.
do Google Meet at MCAD because otherwise,
Well, once you
Okay.
get used to one platform, I feel like it's hard to switch between them and
yeah.
learn everything where everything is again. But if anyone has any questions for you right now, I think we can do that before you go.
Okay. I'm happy to answer any questions. Yeah, my two things would be like super direct and make videos. But do you have a question? Hi.
That I'll say that was incredibly helpful. Thank you.
Oh, good. I'm good. I'm happy to share it with you because writing grants, you never know who the jurors are, right? It's a different set of jurors every single time. But from being on both ends and definitely like the applying end more often, I feel like I haven't ever gone wrong with just like keeping it really simple and direct. Like I'm never, unless like if your work is about this, that's one thing, but I'm not talking about referencing philosophers. I'm not, I'm just being like, what if you were looking at the book and reading my statement, you would be like, yep, exactly. That's exactly what I'm seeing when I'm seeing the actual book.
I found a tremendous inspiration in not only the idea of time to experiment, but also what your role will be at MCBA in terms of increasing your broadcast. What a great, or how we get our work out there.
Yeah, because why, why MCBA, right? Because it's awesome, obviously, but like, why specifically? How would you use that space? And I would guess that the jurors would like really love to know, like, you have specific plans, even though you don't have to say like whatever project you're going to do and you could do whatever you want, which you get to McKnight, like how, why MCBA, why, what's would be valuable to you. And the time to experiment is the thing I feel like I never have time to do. So that aspect is something
Like
that
a
I think
guilty
is
pleasure, right? I mean,
I
you
know.
have time to think about your work.
To think, yeah.
Amazing.
Yes, time to think. For sure.
Todd wrote in the chat, it helped a lot to see your images and your statement and how they work together. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, great.
Okay. Any other questions, or we'll move on to Naomi's portion?
Okay.
I guess there's not. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Paula.
You're welcome. Okay. Bye, everybody. Good luck. And don't wait till the last minute. That's my third thing of advice. Like to have the time to make the videos, to reread your statement. Like you don't ever want to proofread anything at midnight because I've done it myself. It doesn't go well. Don't try not to wait till the last minute. I mean, we all do as artists, but try really hard not to. So, okay, parting words. Thank you, everybody. Bye, Anika. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Paula. See you soon. And I will stop recording now.